try to choreograph that Bamidbar always ends up right before Shavuos. I think we explained last time. A very nice mashal. Why did Hashem give the Torah in the Midbar? Most barren, most plain place to be. You think if you had today, I know you had Steven Spielberg. You ask him to choreograph Matan Torah, he'd have most glorious background and most right. I mean, a bare desert. Why a bare desert? So the Kleisberger Rebbe said very nice. He said that when you give a gift to someone, so if you give them, let's say, a watch, right? So you put the watch in a box, you put the box in nice wrapping paper. It's very nice. Nice gift. And the wrapping paper enhances the presentation, enhances the gift. But let's say giving somebody a car for a gift. Beautiful, red, new, shiny sports car. You don't wrap it up in paper. I mean, that will take away from the beauty of the car. It would distract, right? So the Hashem Baruch Hu is giving a gift. The greatest gift of all Torah. No wrapping paper. Then the plain midbar. There's no wrapping paper because Hashem wants to emphasize that the Torah is the gift by itself. That's what he says. Very nice to him. In a similar line, not quite the same thing, we talked about the fact that Hashem offered the Torah to the other nations of the world. And each nation, hey, join us. Each nation asked Mike Sibbe. What does it say? Yeah. So again, if someone's giving you a gift, so you don't say, well, tell me what's in it, or well, let me see what it is first, right? No, right? If someone gives you a gift, you say, oh, thank you, that's cool, that's wonderful, right? You don't say, let me see what's in it, right? That doesn't make sense. Why the Goyim, when Hashem offered them the greatest gift in the world, say, Mike Simpe? Teretz is, the answer is, they didn't think it was a gift. They saw Torah as a list of obligations. So they want to know, what am I on the hook for? Mike Simpe, what am I going to have to do? What am I responsibility going to be? They didn't appreciate Torah as a gift. So they asked Mike Simpe, but if it's a gift, Kleisel didn't ask Mike Simpe, they understood it's a gift. So and somebody gives a gift. You say, wow, that's terrific, wonderful. Not, let me think about it first before I take it, right? It's a gift. Okay. One more thing I want to mention, which I don't think we talked about last week, is that although we said Nasiv and Ishbakadosh Baruch Hu, we gladly accept the Torah, we voluntarily accept the Torah. We also kafan hagigas. Hashem forced the Torah upon us as well. And the obvious question is, if we volunteer for the Torah, right? Why does Hashem have to force us to take the Torah? So Baal Shem Tov said very nicely. Again, very simple. He said, in a relationship, so most of the time, hopefully, you're feeling good about the relationship, and you want to be part of the relationship, right? You want it. You don't. But there are times in the marriage too. There are days that you're not feeling it, so to speak. But you have responsibility. You got to push through anyway. So Hashem said, "Listen, I know you said Nasiv and Ishma. I know you gladly want to take the Torah, but I'm telling you, you must take the Torah as well. Meaning, there'll be times that you're not going to feel, Nasiv and Ishma. You're not going to feel it. So you have to do it then because you have to do it. You got to do it because that's your responsibility as well. So the Nasiv and Ishma, yes, we gladly accepted it, and we were feeling it. But Hashem said, and I think the Baal Shem says that the kafan hakigis, that helped the Jews throughout history, as a nation, as individuals. When we weren't quite feeling it, we still did it because we knew that's what the Jews were supposed to do, and that was the kafan hakigis. But I want to share with you a different idea, and that is that Nasiv and Ishma means we'll do it, and then we'll see later on what it has to say. Right? Nasa will do it, and then we'll examine it later on. Now, we pride ourselves as a people of the book. Right? We ask why, we want to understand things. Nasa Vishma runs counter to that. It seems to be like the lack of intelligence. An intelligent person would say, let me research what this is all about. Right? Okay, so Matana we talked about, but still, on the one hand, they have to understand that it's going to involve also a series of obligations. And why is it that they were so readily able to accept it without saying, let's understand what we're getting? No, we'll do it. Where's the intelligent piece that really Jews are always proud of? Their intellectual approach to everything. Where's the intellectual approach here? So we all know that the Aseres Dibros, the letters were choros, which means they were engraved, and the letters or osios were engraved in such a way that they were able to go to one side of the luchos to the next. So you could see it from both ends. So that itself is not so remarkable. What's really remarkable is that two letters, in particular the mem and the samach, which is a square and a circle, if you etch out all around, that middle piece should fall out. But Kadosh Baruch Hu made a miracle that it hovered. It hovered. Okay. We know Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't make miracles frivolously. There's no... Hashem's not trying to show off over here. What was the point of this miracle? What's the point of having luchos engraved in such a way? So it really comes to represent a very important idea. If I want to take this chumash, so my hand reaches out for the chumash, right? I turn the pages. My hand doesn't say to my brain, "No, I'm not doing it." My brain says, "No, you better do it." My hand says, "No." My brain says, "Yes." We have a fight, and something wins out. It doesn't work that way, right? The hand and the brain work in sync. My brain says do something, and my hand automatically does it. Right? That's what happens. There's no fight going on. Well, that's the way it used to be in the good old days. When I say good old days, I mean in times of Adam and Chava before Chet, where the body and the neshama work the same way. The neshama wanted to do the Ratzon of Hashem. The neshama automatically wanted to do the will of Hashem, and the body just complied. It's the same thing. The neshama knew, and the body did. But once Adam said he was defiant, and he said, "No, I'm eating from this tree, and I want to do what's independently what I want to do." So he created a gap. He created a gap between the guf and the neshama. Now the guf and the neshama are at loggerheads. They're fighting each other. The neshama wants, and the guf says, "No, I'm not doing it." Or sometimes the body, you can't even hear what the neshama wants because the guf has its own voice now, and it drowns out the voice of the neshama. Okay, so now you have a battle. The guf wants one thing, the neshama wants another thing. But at Har Sinai, where Paska Zu Masam Nachash, when the poisonous snake was gone, as the verse says, which means that we reverted back to Adam Rishon prior to Chet. We no longer had this struggle of Guf and Neshama. It was automatic. Now, if I ask you how you make a decision, so you say, what do you mean? I think about it and make a decision. Meaning, if I have to make a choice, do I take this job or not? So you think, okay, what are the pros? And you're, okay, the pros is a good salary, good location, opportunity for growth. The negative is, not such a great boss, whatever, right? And you pros and cons, and then you map it out, and the pros outweigh the cons, you do it. The cons outweigh the pros, you don't do it. Right? That's how we make decisions. Then there's another way to make decisions, whereas you kind of like, I really want that. I just feel that job's for me. I just have a feeling that's the right move for me to make. We call it intuition. So most of us, we pride ourselves on being intellectual. So we say, we don't do intuition. We think it through. We go through the logical pros and cons. You'd be surprised how many decisions are really intuitive decisions. In fact, even the pros and cons, when you make that little sheet mentally on a piece of paper, what you're really doing is you're going to weigh the pros and cons in the way that your intuition wants to go. So you'll throw a couple of pros on there that may not be so important because in that direction. If I'm saying you'll weight the pros and cons in the direction that you really want to go intuitively. So very often, more often than we really suspect, we're making decisions intuitively. The Zohar actually refers to that as Ratzon Elyon, or Seichel Elyon, and Seichel Tachton. He calls a higher level will and a lower level will. And he actually calls the intuition the higher level Chachma, the higher level will. Because you're in touch with the deepest part of who you are. It's a higher level. At Har Sinai, the Jews are at the highest possible level. Because there's the barrier between the body and the guf and the Neshama were there. So they understood intuitively what the Neshama wanted. So when they said, we'll do it, it's not because of a lack of intelligence, but it's a higher level. They tapped into their inner voice. They tapped into their inner conscience, whatever you want to call it. They tapped into the inner Neshama that said, this is the right thing to do. So it wasn't lack of intelligence, it's the higher level of intelligence. And in our own lives, it happens. Akash Baruch gives a bracha sometimes that for some reason the guf is not making problems for us, and we're able to hear our inner voice says, "This is the right thing to do," right? And sometimes we can hear our neshama telling us loud and clear what the right thing is, and the guf is not getting in the way. And so, but 1 second, how do I know it's the right thing? Let me think it through, because we don't trust our intuition. But there are times we have to know. Now, don't confuse intuition with impulse. Impulse is something from the body. Impulsive is what the guf wants. That's impulsive. That's not intuition. Intuition is something from the gut, from inside yourself. And you still have to realize that it's coming from a higher place, not a lower place. It's a higher place. And sometimes your neshama knows something is right? And even if when you go, how do you know it's right? I just know it. Right? And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm the rabbi. It's a higher level. So to conclude the point. And that's why the luchos were etched in stone. We were able to see the letters from one end to the other end. Why? Because the stone represents the guf, and the writing represents the neshama, right? Because a piece of paper is lifeless, and writing gives it life. a body is lifeless, and the neshama gives it life. So in a sense, the body is like the guf, and the lettering is like the neshama. So if I'm telling you that the letters went through all the way to the stone, that means it went all the way through the guf, which means the body wasn't a barrier to the neshama. So the lettering on the luchos, that it went through to stone, is just symbolic of the level that the Jewish people were at Har Sinai, which is the guf was not a barrier to the soul, and therefore they're able to say Nasa Vishma because they got in touch with their intuition, with their higher level wisdom. They got in touch with that, so they're able to say Nasa Vishma, and that's what the Isis going through the Luchos represents that the Neshama was able to go right through the guf, and we're able to hear what the Neshama had to say. And I'm telling you, sometimes in our own personal lives, we have those opportunities as well, when the Neshama speaks to us, and we hear it. And don't dismiss it and say, oh, no, I got to work through my seichel. That is your seichel. That's your high level seichel. All right? You want to say something else?
I was going to say, I would say the single biggest epiphany in my life was recognizing that concept.
Really? Wow.
Because as you think about the difficulties we have in making decisions in our lives, and some of them are very, let's face it, the decision by definition is complicated. It's not simple, otherwise it wouldn't be a decision. And what I came to eventually understand, and it's only in the past few years, I didn't pick this up many years ago, is the fact that exactly as you said, you can weigh and think about it, but ultimately you have to trust your connection. And once you say, look, I'm going to just make a decision of what feels right in my heart, and I know I can't be absolutely 100% sure, but I'm not going to torture myself for the rest of my life about trying to make this decision. I'm going to go with what I feel is correct. I've thought it through, and I'm going to trust my judgment in connection with the higher self, which is God, in a sense. And it relieves so much stress. It relieved me of so much stress. And since that time, I don't have problems making decisions. I really don't. I make it and I let it go. And I've come to a conclusion that's the highest connection with God, is being able to trust and make those kinds of decisions.
Yeah, that's so true.
And not to torment ourselves going back and forth a million times. Go with it, let it go, trust it, and
there's two parts.
Live a more peaceful life.
Right. Well, one thing you're saying is just trust your judgments, which could be weighing pros and cons. That's also true. But you're also saying is that sometimes that trust comes from that inner feeling with you, right?
Trusting your intuition is as spiritual as you're going to get in this world.
Right.
That's the connection. That's it. It's all,
Yeah, I want to add to that is because of the experience you had from the events that happened to you and made you to make that decision. And quick and logical and then emotional and move on with it.
Well, it's part of life's experiences, but not everybody gets to the point where they're willing to do that. To trust themselves.
But this decision making, the voice, it's not from the heart. From the neshama.
Yes.
Because the heart.
It's not feeling, right? It's not emotion. It's
not from the
neshama.
It's from the neshama. Because Satan rests in the heart. So
right. 100%. Very good. 100%.
And one more thing.
Yeah.
Is the neshama and the guf is all connected all the time until the person dies.
Right.
Is that?
Well, it's true, but the guf and the neshama sometimes are loggerheads. The guf wants to take things, and the neshama wants to give. So, but you're right, they are connected. They're right.
All the time.
And the whole point of Torah is, I think one spoke about this, maybe not. There's Seres Dibros. I'll say one example. Seres Dibros. So, when Hashem created the world, so the letter Aleph said, "It's not fair. I'm numer uno. I'm the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet. I didn't get to go first. Where? It says Bereshis bar Elokim. It starts with a base. How could the Torah start with a base? Start with me." So Aleph was very upset. So it's just said, relax, chill out, don't worry, you'll get your chance. You'll be first. So you get the first letter then. So it sounds a little bit like a game of Sesame Street, with a letter speaking, and it sounds a little childish. That's not what it means. It was like this. Not the letters talked, but if a letter could talk, this is what it would say. Meaning like this. The Alephs represents one and unity, right? So the letter Aleph says, why Hashem did you create a world with the letter Beis? Beis represents duality, conflict, body versus soul, war and peace, evil inclination, good inclination, you name it. Everything in this world seems to be based on opposites of conflict, right? Peace and war and guf and neshama and good and evil, right? Why'd you create a world of duality? Why'd you create a world of oneness? That's what the letter Aleph is saying. Look at the world, the physical world. It seems like all of conflict. So Hashem says, you're right. That's what the physical world may look like. But when I give you the Torah with the letter Aleph, you'll start the Torah. Because the Torah tells you how shows you how it doesn't have to be conflict. How the Guf and Hashem, like you said, can work together. And they should work together. How we really think, how there is a oneness to the world. That's really the koyach of Torah. It takes the conflict out of life by saying, no, you can give everything a higher purpose so they're all connected. That's, I just spoken to somebody's chuppah the other day. So I asked the Sheva Brachot, right? So they're all pretty obviously directed towards the Chassan and Kala. Samach Samech Re'em Behuvim, rejoice in Gan Eden, and right, the creation of Adam, it all makes sense. The first bracha is rather generic. Shahakol bara l'chvoidei. Everything was created for Hashem's honor. That's true, but why is that specific to a marriage? Why? Because the lesson is, in a marriage, you have a husband and wife. People say opposites attract. They should look for opposites. I say men and women are opposite enough. They look opposite. That's it. Men are opposite by themselves. You don't have to say, oh, you have to opposite attract. They're opposite enough. So how do you make peace between husband and wife? How do you get there is conflict there also. They're very different. They're wired differently. So the answer is not they have to have common hobbies. That's silly. But they have to have a sense of shared destiny. They have to have a sense that they're in this together, that they have a common goal and purpose together. Hakol bar l'chvodo means that everything that we're here for in this world is to bring Hashem's values and His covenant in this world. So it's not what I want versus what you want, which creates conflict in a marriage. It's what does Hashem want from both of us. Hakol bar l'chvodo is a secret to a marriage. If you both remember that life is about not me versus you, but Hakol bar, we're all created for Hashem's honor. We're all here. So it's not what I want, you want, what Hashem wants from both of us. So Torah has the ability to be ma'achid, what it seems to be conflict. So therefore the Aleph is appropriately in the beginning of the Torah, because it's the koyach of ichud. In a world that seems to be conflict, in the physical world, superficially, we see Beis, we see conflict, duality. Physical and spiritual, right? Everything. Is there oneness to the world? In fact, that's why somebody will grapple. Where's there a Hashem? I see such conflict in the world. Torah says, no, body is not a steer to conflict. Rather, body is not a steer to spirituality. It looks that way, but the Torah says it doesn't have to. If you get the body, when you eat and you make a bracha, that's not a steer to spirituality. That's elevating the physical. That's a spiritual experience. When you eat on Shabbos, that's a spiritual experience, or it could be a spiritual experience. Doesn't have to be a steer. The purpose of mitzvahs is to get the guf and the neshama to act in tandem. The body is not your enemy. In Christianity, it is. It doesn't have to be. The Torah says, no, you have to look how to get them to work together. All right? So that's another idea. We also bring the shtei halechem, are brought on Shavuos. Lechem is bread. It's made out of wheat. And it's matir, it allows the fruits of the coming year, to be eaten. And the question is, why are we bringing wheat to permit fruit? Why don't we bring fruit to permit fruit? Like, why do we bring wheat for fruit? We also know the Shavuos is called the Rosh Hashanah for the Peiros Elam. Rosh Hashanah, right, for the Ilanos and the Peiros Elam. What does that mean for us? How does that relate to us? So again, in the good old days, Adam Rishon before he sinned, the Elon actually produced chita. The Elon had chita on it. In fact, according to some, that's what Adam ate. He ate chita, ate wheat. The wheat didn't grow from the ground, it grew from the tree. It was a fruit. The wheat itself was a fruit. What's the difference between a fruit and, let's say, wheat? So Gemara says, wheat are machal yekarna. Machal yekarna means when you chop the wheat off the ground, there's nothing left. You got to start over again in the coming year. A fruit-bearing tree, you take the fruit, but you still have the tree, it could produce more fruit. So originally, the wheat was part of a tree, and it constantly reproduced itself. When Adam Rishon sinned, so he created again this great schism, and what he did was, he said, no longer will you see that the that the payers come automatically to produce, but now it's going to come through hard work, and it comes from the ground. But on Shavuos, or which is a Matan Torah, when we got the Torah, where again we reverted to the status of Adam Rishon Kodem Achet. So the Chita went back to being a fruit, so to speak. The reason why we bring fruit, rather we bring wheat on Shavuos to matter the fruit, is because Shavuos represents the time of Matan Torah, which is Adam Rishon Kodem Achet, where the wheat was part of the fruit. So we bring wheat as a matter of fruit to remind us of that status. And what's the nafkamina to us? To remind us that in life, you could choose to be machal yakana. You could be a person that, you live for the moment and you just enjoy the moment and that's it and then it's gone. Or you could be, like the Shavuos is, you could be an elan for Peros. You could be someone that's being productive. You're always producing. So Shavuos is the time where Hakadosh Baruch Hu gives us a bracha of Torah. In fact, Shavuos, every Shavuos, we're davening to Hashem, that Hashem, we should be zocher to His wisdom, so we can be productive in chidush, into being mechadesh Torah, of producing more fruit, but producing fruit in a spiritual sense. That's what that's what we're asking Hakadosh Baruch Hu on Shavuos, that we should be productive to be mechadesh Torah. In fact, I didn't know. I can't say the most important tefillah, but what's really important in Shavuos. And in fact, I remember reading, I forget where, there's one place where they would spend almost 2 hours on the bracha of Avasaylam, or Avarabba, right before Shema. He's saying, B'libeinu, Bina, Lahavinu, Lahaskil, Lishmaya, Lilmod, Lame. That's the biggest bakasha you want to make on Shavuos. Hashem, just like Hashem doles out physical life on Rosh Hashanah, on Shavuos, He's doling out our connection to Torah, our ability to learn Torah. And so they would say with tremendous kavanah and slowly, because that's mamash with the bikush we're asking for, that we want to be peiros, we want to be at the ilana, start producing peiros, chidushei Torah. And that's what it's all about. In life, you want to be machadesh, you want to be a producer, you want to be productive and produce. And we produce Torah. When we learn Torah, every time we have a conversation and you add something, that's called producing Torah. That's what it is. We're at ilana producing peiros. That's what we're doing. It's interesting. It says, if you say something over in the name of the person that said that Torah, you bring redemption to the world. Like it says, Mordechai said over in the name of Esther, that's where we learn it from, right? So if you say, I just heard a beautiful thought from Rabbi Teitelbaum, right? So you say it over in my name, so that it brings geula, eventually brings redemption to the world. The Maral explains what the connection is, leave that alone for now. But maybe geula olam. For these say like this, like this, you say, I don't mind if you say my things in your name, but don't say your things in my name. Right? Right? As you say, you say my things in your name, okay, but don't say your things in my name, right? But the bottom line, it says, if you say something if you give the proper respect to the person who said the Torah, maybe good like them. You know what I see this? You don't see this. You don't normally. There's a total tangent. I have no idea why I'm saying this, but it's like. I can't say look at the world and see great midos. One thing I always see, sometimes I listen, I'm driving on home late at night, so I listen to the radio and this and that, and you hear sports sometimes also. I don't know if you know, I bet you follow sports, it'll probably not. It's the most strangest thing. They'll sometimes go to a game, they want to replay the game. So the guy's calling the game, I'm not saying baseball, I think African baseball. And he says, okay, and then this guy gets hit by a pitch. Oh, he hits a home run, and it goes, you hear it. And they say, okay, that was said by so-and-so from WERC. They always say B'Shem Amroi. I don't know if you see that. It's the most, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. They always say B'Shem Amroi. I don't know where that comes from. They're so medactic that they'll say, which announcer made that call? It's fast. I don't know why they get into that. Okay.
Well, it's like a memory of the moment.
What?
I think it's like the moment was
No,
I'm
telling you, there's a kavanah there. I don't know, maybe they have to say it by law. I don't know. But they say B'Shem Amra. Okay. Kitzamai said, it doesn't bring, when you say who said over the baseball home run, you're not bringing Gula Eilam. When you say Torah, B'Shem Amra, you bring Gula Eilam. Okay, fine. But there's a Ramah that says something else. There's a Ramah that says, if you say over somebody's Torah in your name, you're a Ganef. You're a thief. Because it says Torah and you stole it. So 1 second. It seems to be a conflict. One says, if you say it, ooh, you bring gula. That's not like it's a nice thing to do because you bring gula. The second thing sounds like you're a gun if you do it. That's a whole lot different. It's like it's usher Right? One saying it's usher. You can't say it over your name because if you do, you're a ganav. The other one's saying it's not usher, but if you say it in his name, you bring gula. It doesn't say it's usher not to. It's just if you do it, you bring gula. So it seems to be a conflict, right? Yes or no? No? Yeah, you're not giving me a hard time here. Again,
I like giving you a hard time.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's what I'm good
That's
at.
why I pay me the big bucks. Yeah.
My wife knows about those
Yeah.
sort of things. So a person who speaks Torah and transmits it to somebody else, as in a sermon or some homiletics, he's not stealing. He's just interpreting and passing.
No. But let's say I said something tonight. I said a nice word in Shavuos. And you go home tomorrow and say this Torah, and you don't say my name. You say I have a great Torah thought to tell you.
Oh, because that's what do you call it? Plagiarism.
It's Gneva, right? Gneva. But that's what the Ramah says. It's Gneva.
What if you
You
like say
don't say.
this?
Huh?
What if you say like this isn't mine, but I can't remember? Like,
Okay, that's fine. That's
like,
that maybe not. Right. Okay,
so
fine.
you can still say it if you don't remember.
Right, 100%. But the other place says if you say the source, you're being a gula world, which doesn't sound like it's usher. If you do it, it's a nice thing. So I saw, I think, from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, a really nice thought. It's like this. He says, you know this expression. He doesn't say this, but Adam rotza kav shelo, yosem metisha kavin shechaveri, which means a person prefers 1 bushel of his own wheat more than 9 bushel of wheat that somebody gifted him. In other words, if I produced something, it's 1 bushel. I'd rather have that bushel than 9 bushel. In fact, it goes so far. Al pi halacha, let's say you found some fruit, so you have to return it to the owner. But if it's going to start to rot, you're supposed to sell it, take the money and find the owner and give the money to the owner. Unless you know, like it's a particular person's fruit, that he prefers his own fruit, so that you're supposed to wait a little longer, because a guy would rather have his own fruit back, even if it's a little bit not perfect, than the money. Because I produce this fruit. There's a certain chiba, there's a certain love that you have for something you produce yourself. Adam writes a kavshala. A person prefers his own bushel of wheat more than 9 that somebody else made. In fact, just the other day, I was a couple weeks ago actually. So I was in the kitchen in yeshiva, and they had coffee, right, in that pot. Somebody made coffee, and this guy was making coffee grinds with what they call a French press. He's making his own coffee. I said, you have coffee made already. Why are you making your own? I said, it must be because Adam Roitza Kavish Shalo, a person wants his own coffee more than 9 coffees somebody else made, right? That's what it is, right? Adam Roitza Kavish Shalo, Adam Roitza Kavish Shalo. Okay. Anyway, bottom line is a person prefers 1 bushel, right? So what you do yourself, what you make, when you earn, becomes part of who you are. That's why you like it. So Imam becomes part of it. Okay. He says like this. If you have a Torah, you heard me say Torah, and you go in tomorrow, you say, I heard this, you say, I have this great thought for you, and you don't say, and you, when you say the word, and you don't say over this, then you're Ganef. You say, I have this great Torah thought for you, and it's not really yours, so you should say it over, you're Ganef. But let's say the Torah that I said, you worked it through, you thought it through, and now it becomes yours because you had to work at it. Now it's yours. So now that's not Genev anymore. It's maybe Gulolim if you say it. In other words, there's 2 levels of Torah. One level of Torah is you heard somebody say a Torah thought and you repeat it as your own. That's a Ganef. But let's say you're a Torah thought and you worked it through and now you feel like you own it. Now it is yours. The Gemara says Uba Torasa Yega. It's your, but Torasa, it becomes your Torah. When you work at a piece of Torah and you work hard at it, it now becomes yours. It's not Genev anymore. Right? It's not Genev anymore. It was first it's Hashem's Torah, but now you're Kohen. It's yours. So it's not Genev anymore. Now, if you say it over, it's maybe Gula Olam. If you say over, if you track down the original source, that's a nice thing. But it's no longer Geneva. It's only Geneva if you didn't have to work at it and you simply represent it as your own. That's Geneva. But once you work at it, it becomes your Torah. That's what I'm trying to tell you. When we learn Torah tonight, any night you learn Torah, and you work at it and you have to work hard, it becomes yours. You're Kohen with Torah. So it's your Torah.
Same with prayer. You know, it's one thing to read a book and
Yeah,
have somebody
right.
else explain it, but you have to work at it
Right,
yourself.
right,
You gotta
Yes.
read the words and make them yours.
Yes.
Interpret it,
Yes.
think about
Right.
it, study it.
Right.
It's got to become
100%.
yours to get the
Right,
emotional connection.
Right. So again, so that's the point. So if you're just saying over Torah and you say it, present it as yours, it's not Reganif. You're misrepresenting. You say, I have this great thought. It's not yours. But if you worked at it again, you heard it from somebody else, but then you worked it through, it becomes yours. You're cutting it becomes yours, and you no longer got it. I think it's a very beautiful insight. Okay, so those were a couple of thoughts I want to share. But you can go, yeah. I'm going to end one last thought. I got to run. and that is, I'm sorry?
I'll say for one last thought.
Okay, there you go. Have a seat, make
You
some
never know
comfortable.
when you
Okay.
don't want to miss any big chachmas by
Yeah.
leaving early.
Okay, so we started losers. I didn't spend time. I want to just talk about one thing more about Rus. So so the whole Rus is shrouded in mystery. Like she was a Geiris, she wasn't a Geiris. It's really hard to they question where she was, but she really was at the end. It's really confusing, the whole episode. But the time period starts. Vehi b'mei shveit hashayvtim. That's how it starts off. Vehi b'mei shveit hashayvtim, which means many things, but on one level it means it was the time that people shveit hashayvtim. They judged the judges, which means it was a time of anarchy. Nobody really, there was no central Torah authority figures. Everyone was doing their own thing. There was a bit of a breakdown in the centralization of Torah, and it was a period where people challenged Torah authority. There was a bit of chutzpah going around. In fact, it's not a coincidence. You know that the shalshelas, the chain of where Mashiach descends from, starts with Lot and his two daughters, right? And Lot had the first daughter had a child Moab, and Rus comes from Moab, obviously. And then you have Rus and Boaz. Actually, you have Yud and Tamar, right? First you have Lot and his daughters, then Yud and Tamar, then you have Rus and Boaz, and then you have David and Bathsheba. These are all four unions that on the surface seem somewhat fishy. What's going on over here, right?
What's fishy about Boaz and Ruth?
Well, she came to his room at night. He was 80 years old. He lived with her one time and then he died. The whole thing is very strange. She was much younger than him. She went to his room. It was not so simple. So the pshat is that obviously, and these are all connecting to eventually Mashiach coming. So there's many explanations why Mashiach has to come from such unions. One idea is that Mashiach is the ultimate bringing kedusha into the world, and of course the Satan wants to knock it down. So in order to, so to speak, appease the Satan, so the Satan doesn't want to fight it, Mashiach has to kind of fly under the radar, so to speak. It's not happening in this very above board way, and that satisfies the Satan. That's all Kabbalah. But bottom line is like this: this is Mashiach's times. Now, it's brought down in the Alshech and others that actually Rus was a Gilgal of the daughter of Lot. And you see a little bit of a parallel. It goes like this. Lot's daughter was tremendously chutzpahdik, right, to get her father drunk to live with him. Even though the Gemara says there was a bit of lishma there was some lishma. She did it because she thought there was nobody else in the world, and she, right? But Afal Pikein, there was a bit of brazenness there. In fact, the fact that she even called her son Moab, which means she's announcing, hey, this son came from my father, shows a certain brazenness. Now, there's Rus also had a certain brazenness, the fact that she went to his room, but there was done with the tznius, with the modesty. In fact, she was a very modest individual. The times of Mashiach, we know, are going to be chutzpah yazga. There's going to be a time of tremendous chutzpah in the world. The Gemara says, and say that there will be tremendous chutzpah in the world. And the time of Rus, there was chutzpah. He made shveit hashayvtim, people challenged shayvtim. It was really an episode that kind of smells of Mashiach's times. The whole Rus and Boaz incident, in fact, the gematria of Yehi b'mei shveit hashayvtim is ikvus of the Mashiach. Mamish. It means the footsteps of Mashiach. Yehi b'mei shveit hashayvtim was the times of Mashiach. It was preparing for Mashiach's times right then and there. Now we do know, the famous episode of Shafsai Tzvi, where he did all the things that were horrible, immoral, and he said in bracha, matir asurim. We say in bracha in the morning, Hashem is matir asurim. Now, he abused that, but there is a concept called matir asurim, which means Chazal say that in times of Mashiach, the chaz is going to become kosher. The pigs will become kosher. All right? So Gemara says. In fact, the Chassam Sofer has a problem with that halachically. What?
You look at it different.
The Chassam Sofer has an unbelievable question, a very clever question. We know if a chazer pig falls into kosher meat 60 times greater in volume, it's kosher, right? Because it falls in, right? But we know davar sheyesh l'matirin, something that eventually become mutter, doesn't become, you don't say batal b'shishim. She said, if chazer eventually become mutter, how does it become batal b'shishim? He has a whole, so anyway, he says, he wants to say really that the chazer will actually gain some money, he'll get some money kashas. Leave it alone for now. I'm not going to spend what that means. We also know this Gemara talks about in a different place that there was a Talmud that was able to find 49 ways to make a sheretz tar. Normally sheretz is tamei. He found 49 ways to make it tar, which means that everything in this world there's a spiritual side that can be pronounced as well or announced as well. Okay, the truth is that Moab, coming from Moab was usher. Again, to come from Moab was usher. The Sanhedrin were machadesh then, based on a lost law that they didn't really revive till then, that it's only from Moab, not Moaviyah. All right? So it was a bechira of matir asurim over here. In the times of Mashiach, they were matir asurim, because really up until the time Moab was usher. And they were matir, only Moab, a male Moab, not a Moaviyah. That's why Rus was able to be coming to the cloud. But that was a bechina of matir asurim, which is part of the Tekufa Mashiach. So the whole Rus episode, where there's a cloak of Azus, of chutzpah, but there's something called Azus the Kedusha. In a world that has chutzpah, but in a most brazen way, right? When everything's chutzpah today. You take a look. I mean, how everyone's upset about how could you kill the ape, right? The chutzpah, like the mother should be on trial. Kill the mother, and this is right. The chutzpah, it's shocking. But that's the Zman we live in. But just like this chutzpah, that's no good. But there's also Azaz the Kedusha. Azaz the Kedusha means that there's a defiance that we have to have in a world that's full of tumah, in a world that is so contrary to everything we believe in. You have to have defiance. And that's called Azaz. That's chutzpah. It's defiance, but it's holy chutzpah. It's Azaz the Kedusha, and that's what's going to be required in Moshe Mashiach. So yes, it's a time of tremendous chutzpah yazga, and that's what happened in Shveit HaShaytim. But it was also Tekuf of Mashiach, and that's why we read it obviously on Shavuos night. Right, because David is shaykh to Shavuos, right? We know that, and David brings Mashiach, and so Rus is that kufa of Mashiach. But we have to understand that in order to really embrace Torah, requires Azaz today. In order for us to really stick up and say we're going to learn the Torah, people make fun of it. Why are you spending so much time on that, right? It takes Azaz the Kedusha to say that no, I don't care what the rest of the world says. This is the right thing to do. And that's in the time of Mashiach, where there's Azaz the Chutzpah, there's also Azaz the Kedusha. So that's really the whole episode of Rosh. V'hibimay Shveit HaShaytim, which is Matya, it was a Mashiach. There was a bechin of Matir Asurim, that Moaviyah became mutter, so to speak, and she was Misgari, and it was okay. But she took the Azaz and that's why she's a Gilgal of the daughter of Lot, because the daughter of Lot used that Azus in a bad way. She was misakin the Azus the Kedusha. She rectified that Azus of chutzpah of the daughter of Lot, and she used the Kedusha to have a mitzvah to bring Mashiach as well. So that's why we read on Dafka that episode on Shavuos. Wish everybody a kasher samech, and a mitzvah again. We should all be zeicha to a real matan Torah, and it's a Kabbalah Torah. We should be mechaven that have a rabba. We should really mechaven that we want Hakadosh Baruch Hu to give us chachma, bina, v'das, so we can mamish learn for the coming year. All right.
Rabbi, this truth that
I have to say also, this is my last class for the year because I'm next.